Hello and good evening, and welcome to the Thursday edition of The Shed. Hashtag Irish Blues Mafia with me, Trevor. You're very welcome along. Tonight we're going to preview the game week 6 games in the NFL and just talk about a few little things as we go along. And I'll give you my picks too. Last week was a 50-50, 7 right, 7 wrong. They are very hard to call this year. Last year was a bit more straightforward, but that's the joys of it. It's the surprise. Who's going to win and who isn't, and it's great that teams can surprise the favourites and shock people as well. It keeps things very interesting. So for tonight, I'm going to start with a Thursday night game. So tonight's game is the San Francisco 49ers against the Seattle Seahawks. Now, the Seahawks are surprisingly they're 3-2. But going into last weekend's game, I would have expected them to be 4-1 against a very pitiful looking Giants. But the Giants turned them over, and Daniel Jones played well, and the Giants defense played well, and special teams played well, and they got the victory. Um, but they're 3-2, and the 49ers surprisingly are 2-3. They've had a very stuttering start to the season. They had a great victory the first night against the Jets, and they looked awesome. But other teams, including my own, looked awesome too for a while, and we have to get our feet back on the ground. Um, they still have a lot of injuries, but Brock Purdy isn't playing awful bad, nor is Geno Smith, and this is a hard game to call. The 49ers are going up into Seattle, so you have the crowd there straight away. It's like they call it the 12th man. Geno Smith is playing well. Their defense is doing okay. They were surprised last weekend by the Giants, as I said. And their offense is clicking a bit as well. But again, like a lot of teams, not firing on full cylinders. Um, but the thing is, will the 49ers be able to come back from 2-4? They've already lost out of the 3 games to the Rams. The Rams' only victory this season was against them, and last weekend to the Cardinals. So if you go 0-3 in your division, you're making things very awkward to get into the playoffs or get a good place in the playoffs, a good draw. And yes, they're still missing Christian McCaffrey. Debo Samuel, I'm not sure if he's going to play tonight or not. George Kittle is there. Um, their Ayuk is there. The running game isn't the same without Christian McCaffrey, but Christian McCaffrey would improve any team. And who am I going to choose? Well, I think the Seahawks might be favourites because they're at home and because of the way the injuries and the disturbances and the games that the 49ers have lost. But I cannot see this 49ers team going 2-4. 3-3, it's still not a great start, but it's, you know, 2-4 is going to make things very hard to get back into that division. And for that, I'm going to go for the San Francisco 49ers tonight. Then the London game this weekend is the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Chicago Bears. It's in the Tottenham Stadium. There was a brilliant game last weekend between the Jets and the Vikings, and the atmosphere is superb. And being there for the Bills game last year, it's an awesome stadium, and the atmosphere was absolutely amazing there that day too. And it was great to see the dominant purple color last week in the Tottenham Stadium for the home team. Now the Jaguars are basically London NFL team because they play 2 games there a year. The last year, and they've had numerous home games in Wembley before. So can Trevor Lawrence pick up where he left off last weekend when they beat the Colts, or is Caleb Williams and the Bears going to get another victory and go to 4-2? This was a very hard one. The only thing that sways it to me is the Jaguars are used to going to London where the Bears aren't. And they did play very well last weekend, and they got a brilliant victory. And I know the Bears won too, and it's the toss of a coin. Lots of these games are just toss of a coin to see who's going to win. But I just think the Jaguars, they can't afford to go 1-5. Their management is under pressure. 3-3 for the Bears is a fairly good start for the season with a rookie quarterback. Where 1-5 for Trevor Lawrence and the money he's getting ain't good enough. And I think they'll have the majority of the crowd. I'm guessing will be Jaguar fans because I said it's their It's their second home, is London. So I'm going to tip the Jaguars in this game. Bigsby had a brilliant game last weekend. Kirk is playing well. So, you know, Oduze isn't really doing it for the Bears. Moore is playing all right. He's connecting now with Caleb Williams a lot better. But, you know, I just fancied the Jags. It was a toss of a coin, but I'm going to go with the Jags. Then we go back to the Sunday evening games here. It'll be Sunday afternoon in America. And it's another cracker. It's the Commanders at the Ravens. Now, the Ravens had that epic game with the Bengals last weekend, and the Commanders are flying at 4-1. Jaden Daniels is absolutely tearing the NFL apart. Terry McLaurin looks like a rookie wide receiver with no fear, even though he's an experienced man and flying it. And they're just looking at a very, very good team at the minute. The Ravens had a brilliant win last weekend. Should have lost it, could have lost it, but didn't lose it, which is the more important thing. Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry seems to be connecting a lot better. Zay Flowers is playing very, very well. And I'm just going to tip the Ravens this weekend on the basis of A, they're at home, and B, I think their experience will control Jaden Daniels. Their defense is very good. And I just think they'll get the upper hand of the Commanders this weekend. There won't be a lot in it, but I'm going to tip the Ravens. Then we have another game that's a toss of a coin. It's the Cardinals at the Packers. The Cardinals are 2-3, and the Packers are 3-2. But don't let the 2-3 Cardinals deceive you. They've played very, very good football this year. Where the Packers are stuttering along, but they're getting along and they're getting the victories. And even though they made hard work of the Rams last weekend, they still got the win. Jordan Love should improve as he gets more game time, and if he does, I just think that the Packers have a bit too much for the Cardinals. Even though Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. and co are playing very, very well, and Connors at the running back. I just think that this weekend, I just think the Packers will be too good for them. So I'm going to tip the Packers. Now, one of the first quarterback changes in the NFL this year, well, there's a few of them this week, but we'll talk through them. The Houston Texans are playing the New England Patriots. The Patriots were shocking last week. I watched a bit of that game on Red Zone. There wasn't a lot to show, but they showed a bit of highlights when the games were over, and both teams were pathetic, as in lacking ideas in offense. I was very surprised the Dolphins with all they have in offense. I know they're missing a quarterback, but still they have weapons that other teams can only dream about. And the Patriots, Jacoby Brissett could not lead his team down to get a touchdown. So they've taken out Jacoby Brissett, and Drake May, the rookie quarterback they got this year, is going in. Now, the Texans are 4-1, and CJ Stroud is going to be missing Nico Collins. He's put on injury reserve, so he's going to go for at least 4 weeks. But the legend that there is, I'll say that, both Stephon Diggs and Hank Dell will have to stand up and replace him. And I just think they're a bit more exciting than the New England Patriots. It's not sour grapes. They got out of jail last week. Bad calls by our management, more so than their good play. But I tip the Texans to beat the Patriots this week. I think they'll be too strong. I think it's a good thing Drake May is going in for the Patriots. He might get them a bit more exciting in playing football. But if they don't, then they have a long, long road, because at the minute they're heading for looking at the number one pick for next year. Then we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the New Orleans Saints, a divisional game. The Buccaneers are 3-2, and they had a tough loss last week at the Falcons in overtime. The Saints are 2-3. They had a good start to 2-0, and they've just plummeted. Derek Carr, their quarterback, is injured, so Spencer Rattler is coming in to replace him. Now, I don't know a lot about the lad, but I just think this being a divisional game, the Buccaneers, even though they lost last weekend, are playing very well. Baker Mayfield and co. I'm going to tip this weekend to win this game. Then we have another team that could be looking at the number one pick next year, the Cleveland Browns against the Philadelphia Eagles. None of these teams are setting anything alight. The Eagles are 2-2, and the Browns are 1-4. The Eagles had a bye last week, so they should have time to heal any injuries and get players back and get something fixed there. Where the Browns are just have no offensive line, are getting pummeled. Deshaun Watson's getting put to the ground more times than he's thrown, and when he's thrown, he's not thrown well. And even though Jalen Hurts isn't setting the world alight either, they have Saquon Barkley at running back, and I just think he might be the difference maker in this game. So I'm going to tip the Eagles to beat the Browns. Another divisional game then is the Indianapolis Colts at the Tennessee Titans. Now, the Titans are 1-3, but if you took Will Levis's mistakes out, the Titans could be 3-1. They should have beat the Bears the first day. I think they should have beaten the Jets the second day, but he gave the balls away in two crucial parts of the game, and it cost him their team. His cost his team the game. Excuse me. The Colts, they lost to the Jags last weekend, but Joe Flacco has come in. He led this team to victory against the Steelers 2 Sundays ago, and he brought them back from the dead last weekend. And I think I heard a call today that Joe Flacco should be the quarterback for the rest of the season for the Colts, and I don't disagree. I like Anthony Richardson. I think he's very good, but A, he's injury prone, and B, he is also prone to making silly mistakes at times. Where Joe Flacco has the experience, he's actually playing very, very well. He's 39 years of age, and he does something different than Aaron Rodgers does. He just shuts his mouth and plays his game and let people talk about him, where the other man likes to be the center of attention. But in saying that, I'm going to tip the Colts this weekend to beat the Titans. I don't see there being an awful lot in it. It's just that I think Joe Flacco will make less mistakes than Will Levis. With time will tell. Then we have another divisional game in the AFC West. We have the Los Angeles Chargers at the Denver Broncos. Chargers are 2-2, and they had a bye last week, and the Broncos are 3-2. And they had a good win, a boring win, but a good win against the Jets a few Sundays ago. And I just, you know, thought they might tick along, but then last weekend it didn't happen. And to beat the Raiders last weekend, excuse me, sorry, to beat the Raiders, but it wasn't, again, setting the world alight. The Chargers are, I don't know what to make of them yet either. It's an awful hard game to call. Uh, Justin Herbert has had a week off. John Harbaugh has had time to, you know, put in more instructions into his team and get his team built and offense and defense. And excuse me, Jim Harbaugh, John is a Ravens manager. Um, but I'm going to go for the Chargers this weekend. I think the Broncos, if the Broncos get the win, they're well set up in that division. I just think the Chargers have more to offer as a team package than the Broncos do. Then we have Pittsburgh Steelers at the Las Vegas Raiders. Another quarterback change here where Gardner Minshew has been taken out and Anthony O'Connell has been put in. The Raiders are 2-3. The Steelers are 3-2. They had an awful loss Monday night against the Cowboys. They lost the week before to the Colts, but at least it was an exciting game and they pushed it to the end. Their defense isn't really clicking at the minute. Now, TJ Watt did get his 100th sack last weekend, but it's not the same defense that there was in the first couple of games. Where the Raiders, they're beating the Ravens, but then they lose to the Broncos and lose badly to the Broncos. And I don't know. It's another game that can go either way. I just think if Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, they have to get back on track, and this is a game they would have penciled on as they don't have an offense. Devontae Adams is going to be missing. I don't know if Max Crosby is going to be back yet or not. They've taken out their quarterback. I've seen Anthony O'Connell play last year, and he wasn't too exciting. So I'm going to, even though the Steelers' offense is pathetic as well and very boring, but I think their defense will do enough to get them over the line. So I'm going to tip the Steelers in this game. Then we have another divisional game. There's a good few on. The Atlanta Falcons at the Carolina Panthers. The Falcons had a great victory last weekend in overtime against the Buccaneers, and they're 3-2 at the minute. The Panthers are 1-4. Now Andy Dalton came in, and he made a difference in the first game. He got them the victory. They've steadied the ship as such, but they're still, leaking. If you play a good offense, they're going to let you score. And I'm going for the Falcons this game. Kirk Cousins and Bijan Robinson and Drake London and Pitts and the whole lot. I think could have a field day. So I'm tipping the Atlanta Falcons to win this game. Then we should have a cracker. The Detroit Lions go to the Dallas Cowboys. The Lions had a bye last weekend. They're 3-1. The Dallas Cowboys had a great win, is lucky win, but a great win at the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they're 3-2. Now the Lions haven't won at the Cowboys in 13 attempts, but I'm tipping the Lions this weekend. They're coming fresh off. Dan Campbell means business, and the Cowboys are missing a lot of their defense, and I just think that the Lions will povel them. Um, Jerry Jones will have another stressful weekend, I think. Um, I'd be very, very surprised because that Cowboys offense wouldn't scare the Detroit Lions defense either. Hutchison and Co will relish getting after Dak Prescott, and Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Montgomery and Co should be licking their lips looking at that Dallas defense. So I'm tipping the Lions. Then we have surprise Bengals at 1-4 against the surprising victors last weekend, the New York Giants at 2-3. Um, this game now, I'm tipping the Bengals. Joe Burrow was very unlucky last weekend. It was a bad, I don't know, snap slash catch that should have won the game in overtime. The Giants did beat the Seahawks and beat them fairly, but I don't see it happening again this weekend. I just think now the Bengals defense is poor, but I don't know if will Malik Neighbors be back, or Daniel Jones going to have enough to throw, or is he good enough to throw to beat the Bengals defense? And Joe Burrow didn't do anything wrong last weekend, so he should have a field day. Higgins and Chase, they'll tear apart the Giants defense, and I just see the Bengals win it. Then our Monday night game and the last game of the weekend is our Buffalo Bills at the New York Jets. Now, Robert Saleh got sacked this week. Jeff Ulbrich is the acting head coach. I don't know. I've heard stories today. They'll announce another permanent head coach on Monday. I don't know who'd want the job. But I've heard also that Robert Saleh had to be escorted out of the building, that he didn't get time to say goodbye to any of his team or his coaches or anything. So I think Aaron Rodgers had something to do with him getting the sack. What exactly, we'll never know, because I'm sure Robert Saleh will be paid enough to keep his mouth shut, and the Jets will not want to get out. But if you have to escort your head coach out of the building and doesn't give him time to say goodbye to his players or his coaching staff or all the people that worked under him, then things didn't go down too well, and this was a shock, and they weren't letting it fester. So how will the Jets react? Well, only time will tell. They really can't afford to lose the game, and I'll talk about us in a minute. But are they good enough anyway to win the game? Because I think with that quarterback, there's a lot of i- issues. Garrett Wilson, I don't think is happy. You know, a lot of other players don't seem to be satisfied with him as well, because he wants things done his way. And coaches and players, wide receivers might want things done differently, and he ain't playing ball. And he's the big guy, and they brought him in to win a Super Bowl, and yada yada yada. And as I said on Tuesday night, he ain't Tom Brady. He might want to be, but he ain't. So, from a Jets point of view, leave out they're playing us. I'm not very excited. I'm not Robert Saleh fan, so don't get me wrong. I'm not a Jets fan, so don't get me wrong. But I feel sorry for Robert Saleh. He should have been given the season. And then at the end of the season, if they're in the playoffs and they did well, good and well. And if they weren't, then replace him. But I think this is all driven by Rodgers. I think Rodgers is the dictator in this place. The owners brought him in and paid him, and they're listening to him. And his offensive coach, Nathaniel Hackett, um, kind of get plays going whatsoever, and their offense looks awful, and yet he's still there, and Robert Saleh is gone. I just think it's wrong. So that's my 2 cents on the Jets. Now let's talk about the Bills. First thing the Bills need to do when we don't have the ball, so our defense needs to start from the start of the game. Last weekend, we were 20 points conceded, half time, and then we started. So we need to start the game fast as a defense. But they did very, very well in the second half last weekend, and I have no complaints about the defense. Our next issue, Flash, we don't want it happening again, is Joe Brady and Sean McDermott don't need to play any trick plays, i.e., Baltimore game, or need to make simple calls, the right calls. They're getting paid to make the right calls when we're in certain positions. Last Sunday against the Texans, that last drive we had was three throws, which should have been three runs. And even if you only gained a yard, you were still making them burn their timeout. So when you did punt, they had nothing to burn. Simple things. I'm not giving out. I'm just saying. Our wide receivers need to buck up. Can't all be left to Kahil Shakir. Um, we need to start separating from the other's defense, and we need to put them under pressure that when Josh Allen throws at the ball, they can catch it. That's not all on them. I'm just saying that from that point of view, they're not putting the fear into other teams. Kahil Shakir does because he is awesome and he will catch anything you throw at him. He will get a hand on it and he will hold it. But he was injured last weekend. I don't know if he's going to play this weekend or not. But if the other lads, Valdez Scantling, has a Super Bowl, he woke up at the end of last year. He couldn't catch a cold in the regular season, and then he set the world alight in the playoffs. Well, he needs to start waking it up now. Curtis Samuel, we brought him in for a load of money. He needs to start showing. He had -1 rushing yard last week, and he had 0 yards for passing. It's time for him now to step up. Keon Coleman, I have no pressure on. He's a rookie. He gets his time to learn. Matt Collins, he's not the number one wide receiver, but he does need to get into positions and catch balls and make yards. Our tight ends, Dalton Kincaid only caught 2 out of 6 last weekend. He needs to do better. And it'd be no harm to use a bit more of Dawson Knox. But again, these are little things that can be tweaked and worked on during the week, and hopefully things will show at the weekend. We have to win this game. I'm tipping the Bills to win this game because as bad as we are at this current stage, losing 2 in a row, I just think the Jets should be and will be a mess because our head coach is gone, and I'm sure there's players and people in that locker room not happy over it, and they're not happy with the reasons why it happened. Whether he's the right guy or not, as I said, will be shown at the end of the season and then make a decision. But it just stinks of player power in the Jets dressing room, and I just think that's wrong. But in saying that, I don't care about the Jets. I care about the Bills, and I'm tipping the Bills this weekend. If we go to 4-2 and have a victory over the Jets, and they are 2-0, 2-4, we have a 2 game lead, and we have the head-to-head. So that's basically a 3 game lead in them, and that's what we want. The teams that are on bye this weekend are the Chiefs, the Rams, the Dolphins, and the Vikings. So the two undefeated teams, the Chiefs and the Vikings, have a Sunday off to relax so that they can enjoy the weekend, and they'll still be 5-0, the two undefeated teams, come next Monday evening. So that's my video for tonight, folks. It's getting close now to heading for Buffalo for Sunday week. This day week now I'm flying out, please God. So this is my last Thursday video for a week or two. Thank you very much for watching. I will update you. As I said, I might do a Wednesday video next week for the preview of the following weekend's games. More than likely I will, but as in on a Thursday, it'll be at least 2 weeks before I do one again. The following week I'll be in Buffalo. But I am looking forward to it, and I can't wait to experience it and see what it is like, and we get the whole package and the atmosphere and the day and the stadium and the team and the excitement and hopefully the victory. But we'll cross that road again. But anyway, folks, that's my video for tonight. Until Tuesday night, I hope you have a safe, happy, and healthy weekend. Stay together, stay safe, stay happy, and as always, my friends, go Bills.